invest nothing, and they will sell us at 6 cents. Yes.
And you are selling 15.
Yes. And you can sell for 15 after then. I am betting my last dollar that this gas plant will come on stream and your light bills will be the same. Any bets? The plant will be up and running. Listen to me carefully. Mark my words, uncle and auntie. The plant, this gas plant will be up and running. And it will only fill the pockets of the oil companies and the secret private investors that they are talking about, in which they're saying a consortium is the same consortium word they use with Republic Bank. They said Republic Bank was asked. I have Jack there on record saying that Republic Bank was tasked with putting together a consortium to invest in the Marriott Hotel. And he watched me in my face and tell me that the hotel didn't have private investors inside. With that, I even tell him that the coalition government kicked out the private investors through the bank because they could not meet with the private investors. The bank front for the private investors, he slipped in there. With that, I say namaste.
Kaieteur Radio, keeping you informed.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Burbies 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.
With the time now moving on to 12 hours 5 in Guyana, you're listening to Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith with your news at noon. As supply stocks become limited in Europe and the price for oil predicted to spike further, the APNU-AFC opposition believes now is the time to tax the excessive profits being raked in by the petroleum companies presently operating in Guyana's rich Stabroek Block. A member of the opposition's Oil and Gas Committee, Elson Lowe, on Monday said that the political group holds the view that the PPP government should specifically achieve this objective by increasing its royalty rate when the benchmark prices for oil moves past the determined rate. Previously, the opposition made it clear that they believe in the sanctity of contracts. However, one questioned about its new position, Lowe explained that this change will only be due if abnormal circumstances arise in the oil market, which no one could have reasonably predicted. Moreover, he said that the exciting oil prices mean that the share of the oil companies would not be lessened, which makes it safe to implement. To this end, Lowe noted that Guyana too should be enjoying the increased profits rather than allowing the oil companies to reap these benefits alone from the nation's resources. Countries such as the USA, UK, and Canada have implemented windfall taxes. In other news, following its latest evaluation of Guyana's adherence to its standards, the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative's International Secretariat said it has observed a most vibrant debate in the local media as regards practices in the oil and gas, that should be in the oil and mining sectors. In particular, the Secretariat said there is a noticeable degree of outrage for the secretive management of these critical revenue earners. In its latest report, the EITI body said that the public debate in the press is an indication of the challenges facing Guyana's extractive industries, which include ensuring transparency in oil and gas production and exports, the fiscal terms governing mining contracts, and the environmental impacts of extractive projects and artisanal and small-scale mining. In other news, 43-year-old Kevin Morrison of the Success Squatter Settlement, East Coast Demerara, had been trying for 24 long years to legally obtain a house lot from the Ministry of Housing to no avail to date. After being continuously rejected, the man said that he was forced to turn to squatting to provide a home for his family. At the age of 19, Morrison, who is a Green Ice taxi driver, said he first applied for a piece of land, but the man is alleging that this wasn't the only occasion he applied, that he did so on a few other occasions. He said that his attempts to follow up on the status of each application were met with less than courteous responses from the Ministry of Housing officials. However, it was after becoming a father and coming to the realization that he was not going to receive a response from the ministry anytime soon, he was forced into squatting. Meanwhile, the parliamentary opposition is prepared to meet with the government to find a solution to clean what they described as a bloated list of voters, even if it means a delay of the upcoming local government elections that could be held early next year once a date has been declared. The APNU AFC parties have both called for a credible voters list, hinting at a boycott of the polls if the current voters list is used. Both parties have communicated to the diplomatic community, nonetheless, their willingness to sit with the PPP government and change the laws if required to ensure persons on the list are supposed to be there. The contention is that the voters list is bloated with the names of Guyanese living overseas as well as deceased individuals. The names of these persons are used for impersonation voting. The opposition and the government have both alleged on different occasions. And moving on, in light of numerous inadequacies within the petroleum sector, former EPA head Dr. Vincent Adams has reiterated calls for the government to make public its list of trained professionals and petroleum experts hired to monitor and manage the development of its oil and gas resources. Adams, a petroleum engineer with a wealth of experience and knowledge in the energy industry, is adamant that Guyanese ought to know how their lucrative oil sector is being protected by its leaders, pointing to the meager $600 million oil spill insurance that Guyana has from ExxonMobil's affiliate, as well as the $2 billion parent company guarantee that is yet to be resolved. Adams said the government must help citizens to understand who is currently working for the protection of their environment and the revenue coming from the sector. The time has now moved on to 12 hours 9 in Ghana. We'll take a short break and return with your news.
Child sexual abuse can stay with a person for life. It can rob them of their childhood. It's an unforgivable, unforgettable, despicable act. And yet, children suffer this abuse every day. During these times, we must keep a watch out for children. If you suspect child abuse, report it to the police without delay or call the CPA hotline on 227-0979. Protect children now.
A message from the Child Care and Protection Agency, Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, and UNICEF.
Welcome back. Let's continue with the news. The bodies of the two men who went missing after a boat en route to Bartica, Region 7, on Saturday crashed into a beacon in Essequibo River have been recovered. This was confirmed by Commander of Region 7, Senior Superintendent Dion Moore, who said that the bodies were recovered on Monday between 6 hours and 8 hours in the Calf Island area, Essequibo River, where the accident occurred. The men have been identified as Randy Adams, called Addy, a well-known businessman of Bartica, and Alvin Leach, called Spanish Boss. According to Commander Moore, the bodies are presently at the Bartica Hospital awaiting post-mortem examinations. And Auditor General Deodat Sharma said his office has started to provide real-time monitoring of government's expenditure on this series of cash grants being distributed to the public. Sharma made this disclosure at the handing over ceremony of the 2021 Auditor General Report and 5 other performance reports which were officially presented to the Speaker of the National Assembly, Manzoor Nadir, on Monday. While the Auditor General assured there is no better audit evidence than first-hand witness, he noted that the task comes with its own challenges as it is very tedious and time-consuming. Sharma revealed too that the full audit of the various cash grants is currently ongoing. And 28-year-old Troy Griffith, a taxi driver of Lot 6B, Carroll's Place, Maka, East Bank, Demerara, was on Monday remanded to prison for the murder of his colleague, Quincy Weeks. Griffith appeared in the Diamond Grove Magistrates Court before Magistrate Sunil Scares. He was not required to plead to the charge that was read to him, and he was remanded to prison until October 11th. Weeks, a 41-year-old taxi driver of Maka, was allegedly murdered by Griffith around 8 hours 15 on Wednesday, September 14th, after the two got into a heated argument over a parking spot. Meanwhile, the owner of the sand barge that rammed into the Demerara Harbor Bridge earlier this month will have to repay in excess of $40 million to the government for repairs to the damaged structure. General Manager of the Demerara Harbor Bridge Corporation, Wayne Watson, said that as of last week, the corporation would have fixed the components and sections of the bridge that were damaged as a result of the incident that took place on September 4th. He said that the bridge was able to open for retraction. In other news, ExxonMobil and other big oil companies have found themselves in the spotlight for misleading the public about their commitment to climate change. On Friday, September 16th, Alex Lawson, an energy correspondent for The Guardian, reported that campaigners are urging governments to intervene after oil companies were accused of misleading the public about their commitment to reducing carbon emissions. It was stated that last week, the U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Reform released documents showing that oil industry executives privately downplay their public messages on efforts to tackle the climate crisis. Documents were released on Exxon, Britain's Shell plc, and BP, and also Chevron. And that brings us to the end of your news at noon on Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch